How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Steven Talks. And today, Steven is going to talk about what it was like seeing the Blair Witch Project on its opening weekend. 1999 was a year that really gave us a shit ton of great movies, man. Like, if you really look back at 1999, what did we get? We got the Blair Witch Project. We got Fight Club. We got The Matrix. I think that was the first year where we started getting the Star Wars prequels. Like, what was it? The Phantom Menace, I think, came out in 1999, and that was a big thing. Movies like Election and 10 Things I Hate About You. Like, these are all movies that have gone on to have a long shelf life. So, the 90s really went out with a bang as far as movies are concerned. And of course, one of the biggest success stories of 1999 was this tiny little movie that was made by these guys where it was being portrayed as a documentary about these young filmmakers who themselves were trying to make a documentary about an urban legend called the Blair Witch in the woods of Burkittsville. And they go to the woods to try to uncover things about it and are never seen again. And a year later, their footage was found buried under these piles of rocks. And the documentary was we, the audience, being able to see the footage that was recovered. Now, I don't really remember specifically how I came across the Blair Witch Project, but I do remember, I was on the internet, and in 1999, man, the internet really was not that old yet. It was kind of still a new concept to have the World Wide Web in your house. And somehow I came across news that the movie was coming out. And, it sounded terrifying after I read the synopsis. And so that thing that I was reading led me to the Blair Witch website. And to this day, man, I've got to give those filmmakers credit. They really utilized the internet to get word of mouth out about this movie, because that website was creepy as hell. It had all these little pages you could read about the history of the Blair Witch and just the area of Burkittsville, and the whole story about the hermit dude Rustin Parr that lived up in the cabin and did the thing with the kids. It was really detailed, and there was not a single hint that this was all just fabricated. It came across as super serious, and I fell for it. I thought, oh my God, like, I had no clue this had happened, and I have to see this documentary. Like, this sounds terrifying. And I think one of the last things that the website led you to was the trailer for the Blair Witch Project. And after watching that, even in broad daylight, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to shit my pants watching this movie. So I was excited as hell about it. I was ready to see it. And it was not long before the movie came out that I found out that it wasn't real. It was just an independent movie, and that they had really built up this elaborate backstory to try to pull off the feat of making people believe that it was real. And I was disappointed, but I thought, well, I'm still gonna go see it. It still sounds like a really good spooky time. So at the time, I was living in Wilson, North Carolina, and I was doing some community theater. And me and a group of my friends that were in the show, we all, had heard about the Blair Witch Project. So we were like, all right, it opens this weekend. We're going to go check it out. And it only did a very small, limited opening. Like, after it blew up, it opened wide everywhere. But the first opening weekend, it only played in a few places. And in what seemed to be the entire state of North Carolina, it was playing in 2 theaters in Raleigh. which was about an hour drive from where I lived. So we thought, all right, we're going to hop in the car, we're going to drive to Raleigh and go check this movie out. So we get to the first theater, which was a theater called the Rialto. This was the theater that was famous for showing all the kind of independent movies, stuff that was a little bit off the grid. Every Saturday night at midnight, they did the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So kind of the perfect place to see a movie like the Blair Witch Project. And we get there and every single showing is sold out. They're like, sorry, there's no tickets available. So we're like, well, shit. But the other place that was showing it was this huge multiplex that had 15 screens inside of it. And they're showing the Blair Witch Project. So we're like, all right, well, let's scoot on over there and check it out. So we get there and we walk up to the theater, and all of the doors in the ticket booth itself have these printed out papers taped to them. And those papers say every showing of the Blair Witch Project is sold out. And we were like, what the hell, man? Like, what is this movie really that big? Like, what's going on here? So we asked the girl at the ticket booth, like, listen, are we able to buy tickets for tomorrow night? And she's like, yeah. So we kind of huddled together and we're like, you guys want to make this trip tomorrow night and come back and see the Blair Witch Project? So we agreed that we would. So we bought tickets for the next night. But since we had driven an hour to try to see this movie, we thought, well, we really just don't want to hop back in the car and drive an hour back. So we were like, well, is there anything else playing tonight that maybe anybody wants to see? So we ended up going to see the other movie that opened that weekend, which was Deep Blue Sea, the Samuel L. Jackson genetically engineered shark movie, also starring LL Cool J with his bird. I will be honest with you, that is one of the greatest theater going experiences I've ever had in my life. Because one, that showing was sold out. Because it was all people that couldn't get tickets to the Blair Witch Project. So they just spilled over into the shark movie. And when I tell you that entire movie felt like a concert, like everyone was laughing at the movie, they were cheering. That famous scene where Samuel L. is in the middle of one of his Samuel L. speeches, and out of nowhere, that shark just comes up and grabs his ass, pulls him down. You could not hear dialogue in that movie for probably 5 minutes after that scene because of the screaming and yelling and laughing that everyone was doing. It was fantastic. So because of that, I'm always going to have a soft spot for Deep Blue Sea. But anyway, we left, after that, came back the next night, and we pulled up to the theater, and just like the previous night, signs everywhere. Every single showing of the Blair Witch Project is sold out. So we were like, this time we got tickets, man. So we are walking into this theater like we're Wayne and Garth with backstage passes to see Aerosmith. We're just got tickets. So we get into the theater, and this is a sold out show. So every seat is filled. And I got a little nervous when I looked around because I thought, well, wait a minute now. What if everybody's talking through the whole movie, or people are just being disrespectful and stuff like that? This could potentially suck as a movie going experience. But after all of the trailers and the screen went dark and the words "The Blair Witch Project" came up, from that point all the way to when the credits came up, you didn't hear a peep from anyone. It was silent the entire movie. Now, I knew that this was not real, but I legitimately was creeped out by that movie. I thought they did a fantastic job in making a movie that stuck with you with little to no money. That is an impressive feat, man. I I will always vouch for the Blair Witch Project. I don't care what anybody says. You can tell me that you think it sucks. That's fine, man. That's your opinion. I'm going to tell you how much I love it. So I left there elated. But one of my friends, Tommy, about halfway through the movie, I look over and Tommy is sitting in his chair, but he's got his head down and he's just staring at the floor. And I'm thinking, oh my God, like Tommy's freaked out right now, man. And eventually I kind of like motioned to him, like, are you good, man? And he's like, no, I'm not good. And I'm like, are you scared? And he's like, no, I'm not scared. He's like, motion sickness. And like the poor guy just had horrible motion sickness. So, you've seen the Blair Witch Project. It's just the camera's doing this the whole movie. And it was physically making him sick. So he had to stare at the floor and essentially just like listen to the movie the whole time. Yeah, I felt bad for him, but when the movie was over, we all walked out and we as a group agreed like that was fun. That was super creepy. Not ready to go camping anytime soon after that. And I remember like riding in the back seat of my friend's car as we're driving back to Wilson and looking out the window and seeing all of these woods on the sides of the road as we're driving down. And I remember thinking, man, if this car broke down right now and I, for some reason, had to spend the night in those woods, I would have a heart attack, man. Like, there's no way that I could do it. Yeah, I legitimately thought it was a creepy movie. And so then after that, like I said, the movie just was like a wildfire. It just spread. And so every weekend they expanded the amount of theaters that it had. Soon enough, after a couple of weeks, it came to the theater in Wilson. So I went back to see it with some of my friends. This time the experience sucked because people were talking. They were talking shit to the screen and stuff like that. Because there was this weird backlash that happened. And it's lasted all the way up until today, where when the movie first came out, every single person I talked to that saw it loved it. They were like, it's creepy as hell. It scared the hell out of me, man. Like, I can't wait to see it again. And then at some point, it became cool to hate it and to hate on it. And so everybody just started talking mess about it. And, oh, that movie sucks. Like, can't believe people think it's scary and blah, 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 and all that. And, I mean, like I said, it's totally fine to have your own opinion about something. But that doesn't mean that the people that loved it are going to agree with you, and it doesn't make them morons for loving it. So it was a bit disheartening to hear people start talking about it that way. I remember being at a party and there was a bunch of these baseball players at this party. They were like college baseball players. And one of the dudes started talking about the ending of the movie and just totally describing it to everyone in the party and how dumb it was. And when you talk about the ending of the Blair Witch Project without any context or having sat through all the events of the movie to get to that ending, yeah, it's going to sound ridiculous. And I remember being like, dude, don't tell the ending, man. Like, you're going to ruin the movie. And he looked at me like I was crazy. Like, why? What, are you in the Blair Witch Project? Like, did you work on this movie? But, I don't know. It sucked. That's all I can say. But over the years, there has been a lot of people that talk about their love of the movie because it was a very specific time. It became such a huge phenomenon that it was something people talked about. It became the biggest money-making independent film of all time. At the time. I think a few years after that, it got knocked off the #1 spot by My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And it actually may now be knocked off by Obsession because that movie has made bank. And that dude made that movie for like less than $1 million. So, there's that. But No, I will always have that memory of going to see the Blair Witch Project on its opening weekend. Um, it was just, you felt like you were part of this thing that was happening, this big collective curiosity about this new scary movie that was coming out. And I had a blast with it, man. Every year, if I can, I try to give it a good watch, because if you're going to watch the Blair Witch Project, there's two ways you have to watch it. One, you got to cut out all the lights, and two, you got to cut that sound way up. Because when they start hearing those little kids laughing in the middle of the woods at night, you want to hear that shit. So that's it for another episode. Thank you for listening to me ramble about odd times in my life, but I do appreciate it. So I will talk to you again. Take it easy.